Hungry? How about some sushi? But wait, sushi's made of fish. Fish live in the ocean. And guess what else lives in the ocean? Plastic.
This is Plastic in Our World, a storytelling visualization that combines a variety of data sources into several visualizations. We aim to give you an overview about global plastic production, pollution, and trade, as well as details about how that impacts all of us and why we should care. First, let's get an idea of what plastic production looks like globally. This graph shows us the yearly rate of plastic production since 1950, with time on the x-axis and tons of plastic per year on the y-axis. At present, we're creating over 300 million tons of plastic every year. Growing at this speed, it is expected that we will double the rate of production in the next 20 years. These are huge numbers, and it can be hard to put them into perspective. To combat this, the following visualization compares the amount of plastic we have created since 1950 to real-world objects to put things into perspective. The mound of plastic, on the left, grows as time progresses, and so do the objects on the right. The quantities we have created are so large, we need things as huge as all of the roadways in the US, or all the icebergs in Antarctica, or even a meteor to create an accurate comparison. But who are the biggest contributors? This sunburst gives us the answer. Each slice encodes that country's share of created waste. The first layer shows continent, then region, then country. We can see here that Asia is the largest slice, so we select it. With this you can see all of the regions and their countries. China represents the largest contributor in East Asia, and India is the largest contributor in South Asia. Below, the percentages represented by the slices are visible. However, since plastic is a global industry, it's important to look at who sells the most, who buys the most, and who mismanages the most. This GeoViz lets you view that for the top 20 countries around the world. Under exports, we see that the US, China, and Germany all dwarf their competition. A similar story is told when we look at imports. However, mismanaged waste is, for the most part, occupied by lower-income countries. This indicates that lower-income countries may have a harder time managing their waste properly. It's not enough to blame these countries, though. It is common practice for high-income countries to export their plastic waste to other countries. While these countries are mismanaging the waste they receive, they aren't necessarily creating it, and, in fact, every country on Earth ends up affected when one country pollutes. This results in an inequity of impact we visualize using a parallel coordinates plot. On the left we have the pollution rank, and on the right we have the impact rank, which is a variable we calculate using the weights in the bottom right. Selecting countries, say the US, Barbados, and Japan, shows us how their ranks change. We see here that both the US and Japan are high on pollution, but low on impact. If we adjust the weights to ignore GDP, we see that the US is impacted slightly more, but Japan is affected much more. Meanwhile, the viz makes it clear that Barbados is a country that pollutes very little, but is impacted very heavily. Countries like Barbados are receiving an injustice. Anything that happens here can impact countless people very severely. Plastic was originally designed to be used long-term, but since it's so cheap, it has become the de facto standard for disposable products. For example, let's look at how long that water bottle you may have bought today takes to break down. Here, we'll select the water bottle from the list, and we see that it takes 450 years, or 5.9 human lifetimes, to break down. To show how the time of use, about an hour, compares to the time to break down, we show the average use time here, and all of these other dots are the time it takes to break down. Millions of times longer. Is this really worth just one bottle of water? Eventually, all of this plastic will break down, piece by piece, into your food. This has been a guided exploration of plastic pollution and inequity of impact on people from all over the globe. Thank you for listening.